Hello everyone and welcome back to another video on the channel. Today we're going to be talking about The Companion, directed by Hancock, starring Sophie Thatcher and Jack Quaid. And I was very intrigued by the first trailer for this movie. It has a classic rom-com turned horror setup, which I'll always be down for, and a whole lot of mystery at the forefront. And if it weren't for a friend at work, I'd have no idea what the first twist of this movie was. So if for some reason you're watching this, thanks for spoiling the movie for me. But hey, you know what? It's the second trailer that decided to reveal something that I hope you haven't seen. So of course, I will be giving a major spoiler warning for this review. If you haven't seen Companion yet, it's a great date night horror film for the upcoming Valentine's Day weekend, and one that's definitely worth checking out in theaters. Now, let's get into some spoilers. So what is this movie about? Well, it follows Sophie Thatcher as Iris, who is going on a getaway to a luxurious cabin in the woods with her boyfriend Josh, played of course by Jack Quaid, along with a group of their friends. And there are many not so subtle hints at the truth behind who Iris is. For those, of course, who know what is about to be revealed, there are many lines about how Iris does what she's told. She can't lie. Well, fuck Josh whenever he wants to. How she is uncontrollably in love with this man, and of course, that is because she is a robot. The guy's pet name for her is literally Beep Boop. She's a robot. And I really like this reveal and what it means for the story at hand. It is a fairly easy metaphor to make when it comes to stereotypical gender dynamics, and makes for a good playground for a sci-fi thriller that has a lot more to say thematically than what you expect out of a January horror movie. It also plays very similar to Fresh, which was one of my favorite Sundance films in the past couple of years, which has a similar way of establishing its story. And I really love how this reveal was actually handled. After Iris kills Sergey, she stumbles into the house covered in blood, and before she can get too far into explaining what in the world happened, Josh shuts her down. And to those who are unaware of this, first, you're lucky. I wish I didn't know, but a lot more reveals happen immediately after this. It turns out that the entire thing was a setup for Josh and Kat to take Sergey's fortune, which Josh assumed was because of some shady things, because some things that Kat had told him previously, or at least before the events of this movie, which wasn't necessarily true. Harvey Guillén's Eli and Lukas Gage's Patrick are there as witnesses to corroborate Josh's story, and the modded Iris was there to take the blame. Yes, this movie is so much more complicated than you'd think, but let's get into the performances themselves, specifically with Sophie Thatcher, who I thought was great in this movie. The film has to set her up as a truly one-note character who knows nothing other than loving Josh, but once she kills Sergey and Josh explains to her what she truly is, she becomes much more of a complex character. It plays with the idea of an AI's want to live despite the world at large thinking it's nothing more than something to use and take advantage of. Her quick turn to escape with Josh's phone was a great way to showcase her learning self-control and becoming self-sufficient. It was also a great way to explore how these robots work in this world. There are great flashbacks, both real and implanted memories, of how Josh and Iris met. She can control whether or not she takes voice commands. She can alter her tone and pitch of her voice, change eye color, and change her intelligence level. Seeing her grow throughout this movie and learning to outsmart the rest of the group hunting her down was so much fun to watch. And this all has a lot to say about what kind of person Josh is in all of this. He will happily play along with loving Iris when it benefits him, specifically when he can have the control, but as soon as he loses that control, the mask is removed and the despicable nature of who he is comes to the surface. Again, the film uses the AI twist as a great metaphor for gender roles, and in this case, his very fragile toxic masculinity. And of course, Jack Quaid was perfect to play this role. Ever since The Boys came out, I've always thought he had such a punchable face, especially in those first couple of seasons of that show where Huey just made the worst decisions. I hated him, even though that show you're definitely supposed to like him, but you know, it's going to be hard for me to root for him in Novocaine specifically, which actually looks pretty fun, but I unfortunately have a bias against his face. But he's genuinely a great actor, despite the, you know, trashing his character of Huey. He's really good in that show. He's really good in this movie, and he absolutely just kills everything that he's in. And before I get any hate from anybody who loves The Boys, I did eventually learn to actually like Huey in The Boys, but God, those first two seasons were rough. We also have Megan, Suri, and Harvey Guillén as Josh's two human friends. Once his plan eventually goes to hell, he brings Eli into this new plan of his, and it's revealed that his boyfriend is also a robot, which works perfect for Lukas Gage because I just think he looks like a robot. I've always loved Guillén in things like What We Do in the Shadows, so it's always good to see him in a movie like this. And Megan Suri's been popping up in a lot of great things as well. When it comes to the side characters, Gage's character was definitely one of the more interesting parts in this movie, especially once Iris kills Eli, who for some reason tackles her off the edge of a steep hill. It was very funny shot, and it led to his death and Patrick's shock at his boyfriend's death. Josh, of course, mods him to lose all those safeguards on aggression, which leads to his character essentially becoming the T-1000 of this movie. And then you have all of Iris's attempts to escape, which were all fairly clever, honestly, especially the car plan and using the voice changer to get the car moving. That was a very smart and clever way to bring that plot point into play, which, on a side note, I did notice Josh's lack of keeping an eye on the road at the beginning of the movie, which bothered me, but you know, the car is self-driving at this point, so I guess that does make that thing make a little more sense. But despite all of her attempts to escape, the T-1000 does eventually catch up to her and capture her and bring her back to that one scene where we finally get what we saw in that first trailer, with Iris cuffed to that kitchen table as Josh makes her hold her hand over that candle. Jack Quaid, of course, continues to eat up the scenery as his twisted villain who can't help but get the last word in, which eventually does lead to his demise. There's also some more surprises with Josh making Iris shoot herself, which sells the idea that everything is lost and that the villain is going to get away with everything. But as it usually goes, the guy is too focused on his evil scheme and is too dumb to realize that the robot company has them record everything to prevent any fraud, which got a great laugh out of my audience. At this point, she is rebooted and saves the tech that was about to be killed by Patrick, which is actually a really interesting scene. There's a couple of hints at the state of the rights of these robots have inside of this world. This text says there's a lot of people out there that think they deserve freedom and autonomy, which she is able to convince Patrick to not kill her and gives him the ability to control his own actions, which does lead him to remembering the true love between him and Eli. And the mid-credit scene also does allude to Iris going out into the world with all the money and possibly awakening others like her who deserve their own autonomy. Although I will say that it's odd watching a movie where I'm actively rooting for AI when in our real world I'm actively rooting against it, especially when it's used for film. But hey, you know, when they become fully self-aware like the replicants in Blade Runner, I will officially be on their side. Iris does, of course, go back to confront Josh, which leads him to being killed by the cork remover, and also leads to her fully embracing who she is in this new person that she's going out into the world to be. And honestly, I wasn't expecting that cork remover to come into play. There's honestly a lot of clever callbacks to seemingly superfluous items or plot points in this movie that, you know, was really nice to see. And when it comes to Josh's death in particular, I really liked how Iris still hesitated to kill him. This is the final beat she needs to move on, to fully become in control of herself, and this hesitation gives Josh a chance to kill her. And with his ego, he can't help but to try and get the final words and to make her say what he wants her to say, to prove that he is still in control. And this gives her the time to grab that corkscrew. It's one of those villain moments where rather than, you know, killing the hero, they keep on talking, but I think it's within character for this one. And with his death, she goes free and starts her robot revolution. I did hear a lot of people talking about how this movie has constant twists and turns that you'll never expect, and to a certain degree, I would agree with that statement. I do think that was a little bit underwhelmed. I think this movie was a little bit overhyped for me, but I will say that the movie is undeniably clever, although some of the reveals like Patrick being a robot wasn't too surprising for me, but it's what they do with those reveals and how Patrick being a robot comes into play that was unexpected and fun. So it is a fun mix of romance, horror, sci-fi, and comedy. Ex Machina meets Blink Twice meets Fresh. It's a great, you know, mixing pot of a bunch of great elements that come together in a film that only confirms my feelings of, you know, thinking that Jack Quaid has a very punchable face. But those are just going to be my thoughts on Companion. Let me know what you thought of the film in the comment section down below. And of course, if you did enjoy this review, make sure you guys leave a like and subscribe to the channel to see more reviews just like this one. And I am in the middle of watching a bunch of films for the Sundance Film Festival, so definitely keep an eye out on reviews for those throughout the week. But I think if I don't have individual reviews, I'll definitely have a ranking of all the 15 films that I'm watching on Monday or Tuesday or so. So definitely hit the bell to make sure not to miss that one. So thanks everybody for watching this review, and I hope to see you all in my next one.